Hello, everyone. I'm going to give everybody a minute to hop in and join us, and then we'll get started. I hope everyone is having a lovely Tuesday today. Um, and I'm excited to talk about college. Often we're talking about high school. So this is really fun. And I'm really looking forward to chatting with you all. Hey, I'm gonna watch a poll. It just helped us kind of understand like who's in here, and how to best tailor the webinar. So I'm gonna watch that poll. Just let me know who you are. And then there will also be another poll at the end, asking if you want any follow-up information. So this first poll, we won't we won't spam you, I promise. Okay, so the first poll has been sent out, and then we will get started with the presentation in about 1 minute. Okay, so today's presentation is how to build a competitive resume for grad school or career success. It's going to go a little bit beyond that, because I think that the bigger picture is really important. So we're going to talk broadly about success in college, but ultimately like how that sets you up, your student or you up for the future. So let's get started. Okay, so as I said, what students do in college shapes the opportunities they'll have after graduation. There is a lot of anxiety, a lot of talk about the current job landscape for students out of fresh out of college, what that looks like. Um, I also want to touch on graduate school, as we've seen like extreme increases in the number of applications for graduate school, how to best position your student for their next step after college. So today you'll learn how to plan experiences that stand out in both of these types of resumes. What are key activities to boost your candidacy? Common mistakes to avoid, what grad schools and employers look for in these resumes, and steps that you can take as soon as you enter college, as soon as you step foot on campus to make the most of your 4 years. So why am I talking about this? So I'm Carley Nuzzo. I'm the director of undergraduate mentorship and graduate admissions. So a few years ago, I was working as a counselor with ESM Prep, and I decided to also launch our graduate admissions program. And as I was working with graduate students, I began to see that a lot of the pieces that we are putting together for graduate applications could be better. So, in a lot of cases, if you work with us with your high school students, you know that we really value mentorship and we really value getting started with your students as early as possible so that we can help them in planning the process, in crafting and creating their entire narrative guiding them through high school. And so what we're seeing is that we do, if I can say so myself, ESM Prep does an amazing job with this with our high school students. We scaffold our students with support, we scaffold our students with data, we scaffold our students with information and all the tools that they need to really like execute high school well, to be well supported, to reach their full potential as far as college admissions goes. What I was seeing with graduate students is that sometimes those pieces are missing at the collegiate level. So a lot of times I'm working with students at the very end of their college experience, and they hadn't had that guidance throughout college. And there's a key missing pieces to their resumes that weren't their full potential had they known what to do earlier on in college. So that takes us to undergraduate mentorship, which is one of our next services. And I'm really excited to be expanding even more, but today is not really about that. Today is just about what your student can do as soon as they hop onto that college campus, or if they're there now already, what they can be doing to set themselves up for success post-college and to make the most of these 4 years. Okay, so here's the problem, right? So here's the data that I was talking about. So there are huge advising gaps. And we'll kind of just talk about the advising gaps first, and then we'll go into like where those gaps are really the biggest trenches. So the average ratio of advisees to advisors across US institutions is 375 to 1. So again, if you thought that your student wasn't getting enough support in high school, this ratio is probably even higher at the university level. So while a lot of families think that their students should be getting this support through the institutions they're attending, there really isn't a lot of time for individualized support. I will also go into what that support looks like and what the goals of that support is in a second as well. So there's also been a decline in this availability, I would say, especially with cuts in higher education this year, that this is going to become even more drastic. So we're seeing a lot of cuts at the kind of like institutional support levels. And so the ratio has worsened over time. These numbers have gotten bigger. I would expect them to continue to do so in the current climate that we're in. What this means is pretty clearly advisors have very high caseloads and they don't have a ton of time to meet with students. And so what ends up happening is that students essentially get like a worksheet. They pick a major, they're told these are the types of classes that you need to graduate, fill them in as you must, and go out the door. So this is like, in some cases, there's not even this much support. So in some of the cases I work with college students, they can't even get in with their professors, or sorry, their advisors, especially this time of year when everyone's trying to talk to an advisor about course selection for spring. There is really high demand for these meetings, and it's really hard to get in, especially around different schedules. So there's definitely not enough time to have proactive, holistic support for career goals, personal goals, graduate school goals, to talk to someone about what those goals might look like, what your fit might be. I mean, we hand these college freshmen off, and in some cases in a lot of cases, they might know what their major is, but the path of taking that major and what that looks like doesn't completely match on to next steps. And so really like determining what that looks like isn't clear, and without good support, it often gets overlooked or passed along in the shuffle. Just something to note is that community college, the disparity there is even higher, which is honestly even more concerning because those students do have to apply again for transfer and make sure that all of those requirements match on. So I have this graph up. It's not meant to be like scary. It's just showing data on a survey of college students and the percentage of students that said, yes, this is true. So They receive guidance on required courses and course sequence needed for graduation. That's the highest. Again, degree progress, still only about half. Guidance toward changing majors, guidance related to internships are all much lower. Um, Personal support not related to academics down to 20%. Staying on track when things get bumpy, even lower. So these are things to keep in mind as far as the support that your student might have in college. Okay, so the impact of these gaps. I've talked about these a little bit already. Students often feel unprepared for college level work. Again, we scaffold our high school students with so much support. They're expecting, or we should expect, that these universities have support for them. Often students are unaware of campus academic resources. They don't know how to utilize them. They're either not widely available or not the type of support that the students need for their learning styles. Either way, there's a gap there of students getting the resources that they need and the support that they need. A big thing that I was talking about before is while some advising may cover degree requirements, maybe even time to degree, which would be great, they don't link those next steps. So courses, one, are not linked to student strengths, student goals, or postgraduate paths. So to me, that's really important. All three of those things, and not just postgraduate paths, but also the development of student goals, student strengths on that path. And so a lot of times there is that mismatch. And I think that that's where we're hearing kind of in like national discourse is like the value, talking about the value of a college degree, all of the like underemployment, all of these things that are really scary and causing a lot of debate. Um, it's not necessarily, and we'll get into this more, it's not necessarily that the college degree is invaluable. In fact, clearly, I'm in education. I was in school as long as I could. My husband jokes that like I stayed in school as long as possible. And I always tell everyone if I could make money by continuing to go to school and just keep getting more degrees, I would. I love college. I love higher ed. I do think that it's incredibly valuable. But that said, a major in anthropology, a student might not necessarily know exactly what to do with that, or how to take those skills and apply them to the workforce, or how to be best prepared to do academic research. And so it's definitely something that is missing and that's very important. And I don't think that that takes away from the critical learning skills, the skill development that college is, and the knowledge gained there. It's just about learning how to approach it and use it. Okay, so I kind of already started talking about this, but what is missing? So what's missing is high quality advising. High quality advising significantly improves student confidence and student outcomes. So this has to do with completion rates, especially developmental advising, this holistic advising beyond just course selection. So figuring out what students' strengths are, when to plan certain classes based on those strengths and weaknesses, how to scaffold them with support, what that looks like. So if you're an entering freshman, and all entering freshmen have a little bit of a transition, and you're not necessarily strong in STEM or math, that would mean choosing courses that would make that transition a little bit easier while you're figuring out your institution and your resources and how to navigate things, taking into consideration more than just ticking off those boxes. Time to degree, again, we kind of talked about this. What classes are needed, when reducing the number of unnecessary credits. So that's something I want to talk about next. So I'll leave that for the next slide. Course selection and competitiveness, advising students toward courses or minors and experiences that align with their goals. So this is really important. I'm going to be talking about this on the next slide as well. This is part of kind of like my map for college success. And then for competitive fields like graduate school or high level jobs, advisors ensure students meet prerequisite requirements. So what are these, what, like we said in the title, what are they looking for? What are employers looking for? What are graduate admissions committees looking for? Making sure that students are building that resume throughout all of college. So what's the first step? Okay, so then you get this internship after your freshman year. What's the next step? So that you don't leave college without anything besides that degree on your resume. You've built that resume over time and you are a highly qualified candidate by the time you enter the workforce. Also selecting competitive letters of recommendation, again, different requirements for different things, and craft a coherent narrative for their applications. Whether this is a job application or a graduate application, we talk about narrative for admissions a lot. This is true when I work with my students that are applying for jobs as well. So when you're writing cover letters, when you're explaining your experience on your resume, there needs to be that cohesive narrative, that through line, that drive that shows employers what makes you different and why they should hire you. Early intervention is also really important. Again, this is something that mirrors what we do at high school. Advisors can flag students that are struggling academically, intervene before it's something that goes on their resume, something that hurts their confidence in college, any of these factors. Okay, common mistakes to avoid. These are this is my advice. So one, strategic planning helps maximize your college experience. So again, at the high school level, I usually, and when I meet with freshmen in high school, I work backwards. So I say, what's your goal at the end of high school? It's a little bit easier to determine, right? It's usually to get into a competitive university or a university of their choice. And then we talk about what's required to do so with course selection, with resume building, and then we work backwards. Same thing's true at the collegiate level. So strategic planning will help you maximize your college experience, planning out what you think you'll do when. Obviously, that is a moving target and things can change, but having that plan makes sure that no essential steps are missed. Identify and successfully utilize on and off-campus resources. Again, figuring out what it is that matches with you, your interests, your academic needs, and taking action to connect with those. Learning to effectively manage your time and courses in college. This is really important. There is a lot less structure at the college level. This is really important, especially in that transition time. And it's something that's often overlooked before students get there. Prioritize high impact activities for resume building. It's not necessary to do everything, to be involved in everything, but it is necessary to prioritize the things that will keep you connected, the things that will keep you healthy, the things that will keep you on track towards your ultimate goals. Okay, this is my favorite slide. This is where we'll talk about my plan with college students. So this is the process, the steps towards success. Should start with a vision. So I asked students about their talents, their passions, and their professional goals. We want to find a way to bring those three things together. A lot of students don't know what jobs are out there. If you're on this call as a parent, you're probably, well, maybe you're one of the few, but you at least know someone or know a lot of people that are in jobs they probably didn't even know existed when they were picking out their college majors. So really like finding what your student will be strong at, what your student will like, what your student will thrive in has to do with bringing those things together and then looking at the marketplace, seeing what fits. Then you make a plan. So like I was saying, research what is required to achieve those professional goals long term and immediately after college. Obviously, if they say, okay, my talents, my passions align, here's this like lofty professional goal. Okay, well, awesome. What's needed to get to that lofty professional goal? What would be the first step post college? So is it graduate school? Is it an entry level position? What is that first step and how does that act as a launching pad for the next step? And then mapping. So making a plan mapping activities and coursework to these goals. And like I said, I'll talk more specifically about coursework, but we're building on those experiences and we're mapping activities and coursework to those goals. So there shouldn't really be a randomness to it. It should be very much driven by the plan and the vision. And build on your experiences, make connections across your network. This is really important. This is the key skill that I work on with my students is reaching out, making and building those connections, talking to people in the fields that they're interested in, and um, asking, not only asking about their jobs, but asking about their paths, and then building those connections, building that network for their future benefit. Okay, so this is what I was talking about. We're coming to courses now. So general ed and electives. My advice is to be thoughtful and go back to your vision and your goals during course selection. So it shouldn't be as simple as just taking that sheet that you get, or, a lot of times now it's an online sheet and filling in, okay, I need, one humanities class or three, whatever. Those blank spaces should be filled strategically. So it's not enough to just be like, I need one fine arts class. I'm just going to take whatever so that I have Fridays off. That's not using those blank spaces strategically. So most majors are only half the credits needed to graduate. The rest are these blank spaces. Many students just haphazardly register for them based on like professor reviews or their schedule or whatever. This is a missed opportunity. Again, like I said, a major is great, but a major is only half of your college degree. Instead of the other half just being, again, I think that this is something that ticks me off about general ed. A lot of people complain about general ed requirements. I think they're incredibly important, especially those same critics tend to be the ones that are questioning the value of the college degree. If it's used the right way, these are an incredible way for students to tone their studies more closely to that vision, to those goals, because the major doesn't perfectly map on to professional goals or postgraduate goals in general. They need to be looking for other skills that they might need, other interdisciplinary perspectives, other studies that will help toward that vision, toward that goal. So they should be looking at the classes offered and finding those that will fill in those gaps. What kind of should I be looking at gaining some more like accounting type of skills or computer science skills, even though I'm an art history major, because my plan is to like run a business or something like that. So I'm looking toward running a showroom. I think I should need some business skills. Maybe I'll add a minor that would take up some of those extra courses. It might be a little bit more constricting. I might not be able to take Pilates, but I will gain the skills that I need to do what I need to do. Okay. So now we're getting to the meat of it all. What are employers and grad admissions committees looking for? So, like I said, we're filling in those gaps. They're looking for the hard skills. So these are all, the weight of these are different depending on what your goals are. So if your goals are graduate studies and it's more on the academic side, research is going to be even more important, right? Much more important than teaching or internships. The opposite would be true if you're going into like a much more like technical professional industry afterwards. So you're going to weigh these on and off, but these are going to be like very important to develop based on your goals and to gain and to have on your resume once you leave. Impact. They're also looking for impact. So these are kind of like those softer skills, right? So this is leadership, organization, passion, responsibility, ethics, community. That's where that narrative building is going to be. That's what you're going to be writing in your cover letter, or how you're going to be, like knitting it together in your cover letter or in your statement of purpose for graduate school. So are you elected or appointed executive positions? Are you a resident advisor, high level volunteerism, college athletics? Ways that you're demonstrating impact, and soft skills. And I'll get to even more of the importance of that in a minute. And then again, kind of like those requirements for the next steps. So in addition to maybe some certifications, some hard skills that I talked about on the other side, also maybe you'll need letters of recommendations or references, writing, work samples, portfolios. What does that look like? And to make sure that you're prepared and have been building on that over time and not just slopping it together in the final days before you graduate. Okay, so this is really important. So again, like we kind of started out by talking about like the necessity of this from an advising standpoint, also with the uncertainty in the job market, especially for recent grads, especially with AI and all of the things. Employers were already reporting gaps in recent graduate soft skills, critical thinking, communication skills. These are things that you learn in college, that you can get experience, that you can really hone in college, regardless of your major. Students should prioritize these: emotional intelligence, negotiation, mentoring, conflict resolution, active listening, building teams and team relationships. Again, these are part of your narrative, but there should be exact things on your resume that you can point to and say, this is where I demonstrate this. This is where I demonstrate this. And then be able to take that into an interview, take that into a cover letter, take that into your position. Um, Networking and human capital are more important than ever. And so that's something that I really focus on with my students as well, is building up those networks, building up those connections, and that being a big piece of making the most out of college as well. Um, I have so much to say about this. I'm really passionate about extending our services and extending our advice and information and resources for our students and our families beyond high school. And so if you have any questions at all, please don't hesitate to contact me, to contact client services. We support our students in college with tutoring. We support our students in college with mentorship. We support our students in college with executive functioning, test prep for graduate school, admission support for graduate school, anything that your student needs to be successful in college, we should be able to help. So please don't hesitate to reach out, and we'd be happy to chat. So I am going to send out one last poll, the ESM follow-up poll. This will just help us know if you want to be contacted. Just let us know if you don't. But this will help us know like who we reached out to, and if there's anything we can do to support you. So I'm going to send the follow-up poll right now. And again, thank you for coming today. It was great to chat with you all about college. It's a great time, and let's make the most of it. So, okay, have a great day. Bye, everyone.